start. Okay.
All right, pick up wherever you want.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Pilar Winter-Hill, and I am a 20-year-old classical musician and film student based in Brooklyn, New York. I guess at my core, I'm a storyteller. I've always loved telling stories, whether that be through music and later it became through film and writing, but I love sharing stories with people. I've been playing the violin for over 14 years. It is my love, my passion. I love performing and traveling around the world and hearing people's response to classical music, which is such a beautiful art form. And I really hope to continue that art for the future, to introduce more people to classical music, especially the younger generation who might not even know that classical music has always been around through pop culture. It's referenced here and there, but it is such a beautiful art, and I hope to continue that for the future. Brooklyn. I remember seeing a PBS special on TV when I was around 2 or 3 years old, and I just remember seeing an orchestra performing. I don't remember the exact piece, but it was just electrifying just to see all of the instruments playing together, the conductor leading them, and just something about that was just beautiful. So later, when I was around 4 or 5, I remember walking through Lincoln Center, and they have like these posters lined up of just like different upcoming concerts and all kinds of things, and I was just like, somehow I just want to be a part of this. I just want to play an instrument. I ran to my mom and I said, I really want to play the violin. And she was like, okay, but you're left-handed, so how is that going to work? And I was just really passionate about it. And she would see me like in the mirror with a brush and a comb, just playing, just pretending that I was, playing like a concerto. And it was, I was so passionate about it. And she was like, okay, you really want to play the violin? We're gonna do it. I started when I was 6 years old, a year later, and I was so, so happy. I remember just playing my first note barely and just feeling so, so happy that I would be able to continue to learn how to play this instrument. I always loved fashion, but when you're younger, like if you're a young girl, you have to wear like shorter dresses when you perform, and the older girls wear like longer gowns. But then my very first time when I was old enough to actually wear a longer dress for performance was a Vera Wang gown for my first solo concert at Juilliard. So that was amazing. And I've always loved fashion. Like I draw inspiration from many different things, but fashion is definitely just a way to express yourself, just like music. And I just always loved that connection. So yeah. I love studying the great violinists of the past. So Jascha Heifetz, Arthur Grumiaux, David Oistrakh. I love their performances. They're like black and white. They're just like old recordings, and just to hear the mastery of their techniques and their skills and just how much of themselves that they poured into those pieces is just beautiful. Because, it's kind of different when we have classical music. We can't just ask the composer like, oh, how do you want this to sound? We're not able to do that. So I try to find a little bit of history about it and see what were they thinking, what were they going through, what was going on in the world when a certain piece was being composed, and how did they really put that into the music. And so I try to channel that a little bit. When I was 13 years old, I was invited to perform at the Evelina Children's Hospital in London. And that was such a memorable experience to perform for many of the sick children there, and just to see the reaction to seeing like a live violin. It brought me back to when I was little and going to concerts and seeing violinists and musicians perform, just to see their faces light up and just to know that, I made their day, and they felt really happy, and they were asking questions, and I just felt so happy that I was able to perform for them. And that was a really memorable experience for me. And then a few years ago, I was also invited to perform at the Hotel Lancaster on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. I was invited to perform in the Marlene Dietrich suite, which was actually the Golden Age star's like actual suite, which she lived in for a time. I gave a concert for guests, and that was wonderful. Also performing at the 10th and final Women in the World Summit back in 2019. Oprah Winfrey was there, Anna Wintour was there. I was walking backstage to my spot to perform, and Anna Wintour was backstage, and she saw me walking towards her, and she was like, "Wow, your dress is very pretty." And I was like very humbled, and I was very shocked. I was like, "Thank you so much." And that was an incredible moment, just to be able to perform for such incredible, inspirational women. So that's also up there with a few highlights. Structurally, growing up and practicing for many hours at a time, my teacher would always tell me, spend a lot of time on, your scales and your basics, and that really helped with like my discipline. Even to this day, like someone could say, "Oh, can you just set a timer for this?" And they could whisper it, and yet like I'm like, "Yep, already have a timer." And that's just like one aspect. Also, sight reading. It was a good exercise for me to learn a new piece, not for the purpose of perfecting it per se at that moment, but just like learn something new, learn a different key, learn a different time signature, just getting the rhythm together. And again, that discipline really helped me establish that. As many people do, I love to watch movies, but I've just been fascinated with not exactly the finished product, but all of the behind the scenes moments. I always bring this movie up called Fantastic Mr. Fox, a Wes Anderson film. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. When I saw the movie, I was like, how did they film this? It's stop motion. I just, I went on YouTube with my mom and I was like, oh my goodness, the actors were actually doing the actions. Like if the character was on a motorcycle, the actor was on a motorcycle and they were recording it. And I thought that was very unique. And that just really snowballed this fascination for me, like, how did they film this movie? What shot did they use for that? What equipment did they use for that? Where did they shoot this? Then I was like, you know what? I really, really want to study this. I really want to study film. And it's just so fun to have another creative outlet to tell stories. And I love writing little short films and getting together with my classmates and just shooting things. The way it ties into music is very interesting. So when one of my very first like viral performance videos on Instagram, I remember just like so many comments were coming in, like just comments and comments. They were like, "This is the piece from John Wick. This is the song from John Wick," and I had no idea what John Wick was. I didn't know at the time, and so I Googled it and I found the scene, and so I was like, wow, classical music and film kind of go together. And I started, watching movies and realizing, hey, canon is in there. Oh, hey, they wrote this opera for this movie, and then it just kind of, started from there. But I actually went to see the movie John Wick because of all the people who were commenting. I do believe that classical music will remain culturally relevant for future generations to come. Is a lot of like classical compositions in pop culture, for example, like Fantasia. In commercials, you'll hear like the can-can, Mozart. What I try to do is just find different mediums to put classical music. So in films, I try to find something that really matches the mood of the piece of art that I'm trying to show. And whether that be through film, through dance, through the visual arts, I believe classical music will have a future. I love to travel. I realize that people all over the world really do appreciate this art form. Hearing the responses and just hearing the questions that they have about certain composers or different techniques and all kinds of things. And for me, I really look forward to performing in Europe. It is so beautiful. And I've performed in Spain, Paris, England, Scotland, China, so many different countries. And just to hear the response to this art form is just beautiful. When I perform, I try to just, also go with the cue of the crowd. If I want to play something super fiery and super passionate, I'll go into that, and people will get really revved up and really excited. Or if it's a more relaxed crowd, I'll play something very lyrical and just relaxing. And so just kind of being able to incorporate all of these different things, I think it really helps you become a well-rounded artist. When I was 12 years old, I just, really wanted to find a way to spread my music and spread it to more people around the world. What a better way to do that than through social media? And the response that I've received over the years has just been so beautiful, through comments or DMs or just like messages of people being like, you inspired me. Something that really, really makes me so happy is when I see a person just respond like, I played the violin when I was younger, but I took a break for years, and seeing you play just really made me want to start back again. And that really, touches me, and I hope to continue to do that for years to come.
Boots in the summer.
Also, I wrote a children's book back in 2021. It's called A Neighborhood Walk, A Musical Journey. And it's loosely based on my musical journey when I was younger, walking through New York City with my mom and just, hearing different instruments playing all over, because the city is so big, it's so vast, and there's so many different people performing, whether that be in the streets or if you just hear something on the radio, they really stick with you when you're little. And so I was able to call back to those memories and jot them down, and it was published, and it's just so amazing that I had the opportunity to do that. I'm currently preparing my next annual European tour. So I have a few countries that I would love to visit, and then I'm being invited to perform at different venues, and I'm very, very excited. Coming out later this year, there's a textbook that wants to feature me. So back in 2019, when I was 13 years old, I made history as the first Black American major prize winner in an international violin competition. I won second prize out of 47 competitors from all over the world, and that moment was surreal to me. And this textbook is willing to feature me, and I'm very, very honored and excited that children and people all over the world are going to be able to learn about me. That is very humbling, and I'm very, very excited by that. And also, just to keep sharing my love for music and my love for stories, for film, and just to be able to continue that throughout the years and just never stop learning. And I just try to really draw in as much as I can, soak in as much as I can, and eventually would love to go back to conservatory. But in the meantime, just really continuing my journey as a musical artist and as a film student, and continuing the classical arts for the future.